Yo, book nerds! Today we're going to talk about languages. Obviously, this video is in English. English is my first language. I want to talk about languages though because I have been learning other languages pretty much my whole life. I don't really consider myself bilingual or I don't consider myself multilingual, but I would love to someday be able to hold those titles. I feel like in the United States, other languages are just generally, it seems like, looked down on if you're not speaking English, which I don't like. I wish we had the attitude here that a lot of other countries have. In a lot of other countries, being multilingual or bilingual is seen as like normal. It's such a positive thing. Like learning other languages is a big deal. It's just part of the culture. And I wish it were like that here. Like when I was in Italy, I met so many people that were multilingual and it was crazy to me. They would switch between English to Italian to Spanish to whatever, and it was like, wow, I wish I could do that. So I just want to talk about languages today and just kind of have this discussion because I think it's important. So obviously, because English is my first language, I speak it, I read it, I write it, all of the above. But I said I have been learning other languages my whole life. So what did I mean by that? I started learning Spanish in, I believe it was first grade, maybe even kindergarten. But I went to a private school where they taught Spanish. And so I started learning Spanish at a very young age. I took 12 years of Spanish classes, I believe. If I started in first grade, it would be 12 years. If I started in kindergarten, it'd be 13. But we'll just say I took 12 years of Spanish. And so, like, I don't personally consider myself fluent. I can get by in conversations. I just feel like, I feel personally like that there's way more that I need to learn. And I guess I'm not confident in my abilities to speak it fluently. But I can speak it, I can write it and read it. And I have read it. There are a few books on my shelves which they're not just in Spanish, like they're dual translations. So like on one side it'll have Spanish and on the other page it'll be English. And I'll read the Spanish. And so I can usually read Spanish, no problem. I understand what it's talking about. I can write it pretty well, although I don't write it as much as I used to, so I'm a little out of practice, I guess. Speaking it, like when I listen to it, I can usually understand what someone is saying. And I can speak it back. I'm just not confident because I don't practice it a lot. So I think that's where my confidence fades. So like if I'm having a conversation, I'm usually like slower and not as like fluent, but I do know what's being said. I know how to say things. It's just learning another language is hard, and I don't knock anyone that's like learning English, especially when they talk, like if they're slower. Like I totally understand because I'm the same way when I'm speaking Spanish. Besides Spanish, I have also taken 2 years of American Sign Language. So obviously that's not like a written language unless you count seeing like pictures of the signs as reading it, which I don't. You just read it in English. But I know sign language or ASL, and I just don't practice it enough. So like from when I learned it to now, like I know I have forgotten many signs, but I can still get through most conversations, and I usually can understand what is being said to me, but I still don't consider myself fluent because I know I need to learn a lot more. And there's a lot of like grammar things with American Sign Language that I'm still learning. So I definitely need to continue with that. Some people don't know that sign language is not universal. Like Mexican Sign Language, British Sign Language, like they're all different. I know American Sign Language. But anyway, besides American Sign Language and Spanish, the only other like language class like I've officially taken, I did take 1 year of German. I know a few phrases, I know a few words, I can read a little bit of it, but if someone's speaking to me, I probably won't know everything they're saying. I might be able to pick out a word or two here and there, and I can't speak it back. Like I can say a few words. So like I have a long way to go with my German. The reason I started learning German is because my ancestors were German and I was just interested in learning it, but I only took 1 year and stopped. So I would love to learn more. Because of the languages I do know and the little bit of studying that I have with each of them, I sometimes can understand like Italian or French because of the Spanish background. Also, having gone to a Catholic school, we studied some Latin, and so that Latin helps with the Spanish, helping me understand Italian or French because they're all Latin languages. And even Portuguese a little bit I can understand. So like I can't read or write them, but if they're spoken, I can usually figure out what it is because of similarities to Latin or Spanish. I someday would just love to be able to pick up a book in another language and just read it fully. And I probably could do that with Spanish. I have read picture books in Spanish, no problem. I haven't read like a full novel in Spanish, but that would probably be the easiest one for me to do at this point since I do have 12 years of experience with it. I also used to be married to a Hispanic and his whole family spoke Spanish, so I got more than just like the school side of it. I learned a lot of like how to actually speak it without like it sounding textbook. And I learned a lot of slang that way too. But I still like that confidence just isn't there, and I would someday love to be able to just pick up a book and read it. I want to keep learning other languages, and I wish I had time. Like life is so busy with grad school and my kids and everything, but it's something that I strive for, and I really just admire people that speak multiple languages. Like it's incredible to me to be able to just like switch and start speaking in another language, and like, oh my gosh, it's just amazing to me. And I at one point I wanted to learn Russian, but I took one look at the Russian alphabet and was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. It's hard when it's not even the same alphabet. And so like I just wanted to have this conversation and make this video because I see so much hate towards people like learning another language, or like especially like in the US, people coming here and trying to learn English. Like cut them some slack because it is challenging to learn another language, and I think it's such a beautiful thing to learn another language. Like I'm a language nerd. This is why I want to be a language arts teacher. Like I'm fascinated with the English language, first of all, but it doesn't stop there. I'm fascinated with other languages too. And it's just incredible to me. And I would love to know what languages you speak, what languages you can read, write, all of the above. Like I want to know, what sign languages do you speak? I would love to know that. If you don't speak American Sign Language, what sign language do you speak? I would love to know. And again, if my grammar with the sign language is bad, I'm sorry. Like, I am still learning. Like, I only took 2 years, so I know I have a lot to learn. I know this video is a little shorter, but I just wanted to have this conversation because I just think it's important. And I think we should embrace other languages and be more open to learning them and learning about them and struggling to learn them, because like it is hard. And it's worth the struggle. And I think if you try to learn another language, you'll have more understanding for someone else who is trying to learn a language. That's my 2 cents. That's a little bit more about me, I guess. And I would love to know what languages you speak. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for talking books with me. Yo, book nerds, editing Jordan here. I realized when I was editing that you might want to hear me speak German and Spanish. I was signing American Sign Language, so maybe you wanted to hear me speak the other languages. Well, like I said, I can't speak a lot of German, so I'll just say one word for you. I'll say willkommen, which means welcome. That's all I'm gonna say in German for you. Welcome to my channel. But I'll say a little bit in Spanish, so because yeah, I can speak more Spanish. Yo puedo hablar español, pero es difícil para mí. puedo leerlo y escribirlo mejor que hablarlo, pero sí. Gracias por hablar de libros conmigo. Hasta luego.